I'm lying on a beach bed by the pool, drinking a bintang. My body is exhausted, but I feel a deep sense of excitement from being in such a different place. I've come to Bali for a surf trip, and I just finished my first session. I feel amazing. The next few days will be filled with nothing but surfing. I'm a 35-year-old weekend surfer and a Japanese office worker. Taking paid leave isn't easy, and I don't have much financial freedom, so traveling abroad isn't something I can do lightly. Still, I managed to make time for overseas surf trips. This is my 5th one. So far, I've visited Australia, southern Taiwan, Hawaii, and the Philippines. For a Japanese office worker, I'd say that's a pretty decent number. I've been surfing for a little over 10 years. It wasn't a hobby I picked up as a child. I started after becoming a working adult. Unlike the stories you often hear about people getting hooked after their first unforgettable ride on a wave, that wasn't the case for me. The first time I went to the ocean with a surfboard was back in college. I borrowed a friend's board, ended up damaging it, and had a pretty unpleasant experience. It took me a while to try surfing again after that. I got back into surfing after becoming a working adult. Some friends of mine, who didn't have any particular hobbies either, decided we should find a hobby, so we gave surfing a try. It ended up becoming a somewhat regular thing. We'd load surfboards onto a newly purchased used car and head to the beach. We'd do some light surfing, although, to be honest, we were mostly flailing in the water rather than actually riding waves. Drink some beers, take a nap, and then head home. It was simple, but we had a lot of fun. For about 2 or 3 years, I only surfed during the summer. Since I often left early in the morning, I started turning down invitations to go out drinking the night before. Gradually, those invitations stopped coming altogether, and I found myself with more free time on weekends. Naturally, I ended up going surfing more often. Before I knew it, I was surfing in the fall, and by the following year, I had ordered a semi-dry wetsuit so I could surf in the winter as well. By that time, the friends I had started surfing with had already quit. I, on the other hand, began attending a surf school that provided transportation to the beach. To be honest, even now, I'm not entirely sure why I've become so hooked on surfing. Maybe it's the surf culture, the joy of playing in nature, the challenge of things not going as planned, the physical activity, or simply having free time. Perhaps it's also because when I tell people I surf, they often respond with, "That's so cool." All these factors combined probably drew me in. After I started attending the surf school, I found myself going to the beach almost every weekend. This story takes place in my 10th year of surfing. As a salaryman, it's not easy to take long vacations. Somehow, I managed to string together a 4-night, 6-day surf trip by combining a weekend, a public holiday, and a bit of paid leave. I was working overtime until the day before departure, but packing on the day of departure wasn't much of an issue. My surf gear and clothing are pretty straightforward. Just packing what I usually use gets the job done. Traveling to warm destinations makes things nice and light. For surf trips, I never forget to bring amino acid supplements, which are effective for recovery from surfing fatigue. I also make sure to pack wax suitable for the water temperature at the destination. While you can buy it locally, it saves time to have everything ready to go so I can start surfing right away. Lastly, I wrap my surfboard in wetsuits and towels before putting it in the board case to protect it during the flight. This helps prevent damage to the board while traveling. I used to get excited about international travel and watch movies or enjoy the in-flight meals. But now, I just have 1 or 2 beers before boarding and try to sleep right after getting on the plane. Since I usually fly budget airlines, LCCs, the seats are cramped, and the food isn't great. So, I've concluded that sleeping through most of the 7-hour flight is the most comfortable option. I arrived in Bali in the evening. The humid air clung to my skin, and the red-purple sunset greeted me, along with the driver who would take me to the hotel. Once I got to the hotel, I still had some energy, so I decided to take a walk around. I like to be active early in the trip, as it helps me explore more later on. I found some nice-looking restaurants, a gelato shop, an organic food store, and a massage place with good prices. Places I'd like to check out later. If I find places I want to visit later in the trip but run out of time, it would feel like a missed opportunity. That's why it's important to scout them out early. While walking around, I got in touch with the surf guide I'd booked, and we arranged the meeting place and time for tomorrow. Imagining the crystal clear, warm water and perfectly shaped waves, I felt my excitement rise. But I held it in and went back to the hotel to sleep, preparing for tomorrow. The next morning, as planned, the guide Agus arrived in a van to pick me up. He had a healthy build and a sharp smile. He seemed reliable. Hiring a surf guide can cost a fair amount, and some people might choose not to, but I almost always hire one. There are 3 reasons for this. 1. To get local knowledge about surf spots. 2. To have transportation to those spots. 3. To have more options for enjoying the trip. Hiring a surf guide can be expensive, but for me, it's worth it for these 3 main reasons. 1. Local knowledge of surf spots. When you visit a new place, you often don't know much about the surf spots. You can look up general information online, but that alone isn't enough. The tides might expose sharp coral, or strong currents could sweep you away. There are also local-only areas where you might get into trouble. To avoid these risks, it's essential to have a guide who knows the area well. 2. Transportation. You can't always find good waves near your hotel, so you often need to travel to different surf spots. However, carrying a surfboard onto public buses or trains is nearly impossible. Renting a car or motorbike is an option, but navigating unfamiliar roads or finding parking near surf spots can be tough. Having a guide who drives you around is a huge help. 3. More options for fun. Surf guides often recommend not just surf spots but also sightseeing spots and restaurants. Sometimes you can surf with other surfers who are also being guided, and after surfing, you might grab a meal together. Especially when traveling solo, these connections can add to the fun of the trip. I found my guide through a feature on Bali surf guides in the surf magazine, Surfing Life, which is available for free on Amazon Unlimited, including back issues. The article included the guide's social media account, and by checking it out, I was able to see if our personalities matched. It's great that we can find guides like this so easily these days. Amazon Unlimited has more than just surf magazines. It also offers travel guides and other books for free. It's worth signing up, even temporarily, for trip planning and passing time during your travels. When I got into the guide's van, he mentioned that we were picking up one more person. We drove for about 5 minutes and arrived at another hotel, where a Japanese man in his late 40s was waiting. He had shoulder-length hair and was wearing a basketball jersey, quite a striking look, especially for Japan. His name was Toshi. He and his wife had been staying in Bali for about a month, and whenever he surfs, he hires Agus as his guide. Today, the 3 of us would be heading to the beach together. After a 10-minute drive, we checked the waves, then moved a bit further and arrived at a spot called Sanur Reef. It's a right-hand reef break about 400 meters offshore. From land, you can't really see the waves. After discussing it with the guide, we agreed that with waves about shoulder to head high, we could manage to get out there. So, we decided to surf here.